I know you need this. You might be recording your single, maybe even a full album. You might be doing some jam tracks to play along. You might actually be a bass player. You might actually be a bass player. You might be an engineer, you might be a producer. Bottom line is that we all need a great sounding bass. And today, my friend, I'm gonna share with you how to make a great bass sound in Amplitube 5. I'm Jorge Lanzasing now. We break it down, baby. Sick bass. Sup? Damn, son. Where'd you find that?
Trapaholics.
I know that bass, amongst my fellow guitar players, it's pretty underrated. And even though bass plays such a huge role into like the energy, the emotion, the structure and overall vibe of a song, sometimes it's the last thing we think about. I'm talking about the guitar players that don't appreciate their bassist. So now that I said all these things and I know that half of my audience just literally vanished, I know that you really care about how to make a great bass tone. So grab your snacks and a drink and let's dive in, my friend. Okay, first disclaimer that I'm gonna do is that we all have different instruments and we all play differently. Some of you might play the bass with the pick and some of you might play the bass with the fingers. And in bass instruments, it really matters the dynamics that you put into it. So the sound is going to be very, very different depending on if you're using the pick or if you're using your fingers. So I felt like the tone that I should be doing today is basically a chain that it's very, very popular in the studio. My personal favorite. Mostly because it's going to be a very versatile sound, and depending on who you are and how you play, it's going to adapt to what you want to do. So let's stop the talking, get to the rocking, and I don't know, make some bass? Whatever. Right? So here we are in Pro Tools, and the main reason why I'm here is because I want us to hear the mid-range of the bass in context with other instruments. Because it doesn't really matter to have a great sounding bass if it only sounds really good on its own, right? So now that I have my headphones, let's just listen to this. As you can see, there's nothing on the bass. Straight up DI, and what we're gonna hear, it's me playing my P bass with my fingers. Let's hear it. Not too bad, it just sounds like a P bass into a DI. A lot of people's favorite bass sound. And honestly, don't ever disregard the DI because even in this process, there's more than one scenario where I would still use the DI in conjunction with the sound of the amp. But that would be for a different video. Today, my friend, we're just gonna focus on the amp. Let's go. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do is load up Amplitube. Okay, so here we go. There's Amplitube loaded right here, and this is our default state. And of course, this is nothing like what we want. Let's hear it just for fun. Oh, first thing, too loud, let's turn it down. I mean, it arguably has its own appeal, right? It's not really too bad. And that gives you sort of like the first idea, my friend, and this whole concept of like bass sound and bass tone. You really can do whatever you want. Okay, so let's move on to our first step, and that's gonna be choosing the right amp. Since I told you that I'm going to be trying to recreate one of my favorite bass rigs, I already know what amp to get. Let's go get it. Okay, so we're just going to hit here right here on amps, and we're going to go down, scroll to our bass section. And as you can see, there's a pretty solid collection. Let's see. And I already did a little bit of a check, and there's really nice sounding amps in this collection. If you already tried them all, let me know in the comment section. And I think that I'm going to really be paying attention to amps when I'm choosing them. It's how the mid-range behaves, how aggressive, how intrusive, how heavy or well-defined the sound might be. But a bunch of these amps are going to sound really good. Right, so the amp that I like is the B15 by Ampeg, and we have two kind of flavors of this. We have this, and very important, always let the tubes warm up. I just thought I'd point that out because it's fun. And so to let it be a nudge to other companies that don't even take the time to have an interface. I mean, these guys are even putting animations of tubes warming up, okay? And some of you all just want to give us sliders? Nah. 2024, my friend.
Nah.
Anyway, rant over. So today, my friend, we're going to be choosing the SVX15N because it just got a lot of the character that I really like and enjoy in an amp. Let's hear some. All right, here we go. And of course, levels are not going to be perfect right now, but we're going to tweak this amp so much that doesn't even matter right now. Okay, so first change, we're going to come right here to the top. We're going to go where the cabinets are, and we're going to go to room and select large studio. That's my favorite sounding room in this whole collection. And even though we just chose a room, we're gonna mute that mic because you don't really hear of too many basses with room sound. So we're gonna keep it traditional and simple, just using one mic. So we're gonna mute this one too. And let's do the first thing by choosing that mic. Okay, let's play our bass line, and I'm gonna play it in solo so we can appreciate the tiny little differences between all these changes. Let's go. I just did that little tour right there so that you could hear a little bit of the differences that the microphone choice makes. And if you want to hear something like this more into detail, let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're there, remember to like, subscribe, and do all those cool little things I would like to do on YouTube, and enjoy this little bossa nova, my friend. I hope your day keeps getting better and better. Alright, let's keep going. Okay, so now let's hear the ribbons. Right, that was pretty impressive, right? I feel like this is a great choice if you're gonna like really cut the highs a lot and you're just gonna use the low end, but I'm not gonna tell you what to do. You do whatever you want, my friend. That's a great sounding microphone, right? Let's choose the MD1B because that's the one I chose yesterday when I was working on this sounds and in this mix. So let's just use that. Okay, so here we go. But right now, that just feels boring, right? Just the bass into an amp. So hang on, my friend. Here we're gonna start. Triple compression. What do I mean with triple compression? I'm gonna be using 3 compressors in series on my input section just to get it a little bit more consistent. I'm not really looking for push or level. I'm trying to keep the level a little consistent to make sure my bass frequencies are consistent. And how are we gonna achieve that? We're gonna choose my 3 favorite compressors. Let's start with the 1176. You would go right here to your upper right corner and choose right here where your post effects are. Boop. And scroll to where your dynamics are. We're going to start right here with the black 1176. Right here after your DI. I mean, if you want, you could use it right here because we're not going to be using all the slots that this plugin has to offer, but you can add whatever you want right after. So I always like to use my compression or my gate right at the very beginning, right here. Right? Let's tweak the 1176. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to adjust our input and we're going to set it to -25 or right around -25. You can do whatever you want depending on what you're listening to. But of course, as you could see, we turned the input up. So the next thing that we need to do is turn the output down. And in this case, we're going to turn it down all the way right here to -24 or like 12 o'clock right there. That's so that we're not pushing the amp more than we need to. Let's hear how that sounds. I can definitely hear those bass frequencies starting to come up. We didn't necessarily gain too much volume, but we gained a lot of girth weight. Okay, the next thing that we're going to tweak is the attack and release. And in this case, my attack is going to be fairly fast. I really want to make sure that I'm affecting the dynamics on my fingers. And then our release is going to go around 4.5. Much better. Next step, LA2A. So right here in your dynamics, again, boom, white 2A. Open it and edit. And the first thing that we're going to check is our gain reduction. This one's a lot louder. Let's turn it down. Let's compress it a little bit more. And you can see how the needle moves. It's basically when my fingers are hitting it hard. Take a look. I think it's really doing a great job of keeping my signal consistent. Alright, next compressor. Again, in our dynamic section, we're going to be choosing the model 670. In this one, I'm using it a little bit differently. I'm not really just compressing with it. I'm trying to extract the tone, if you will. So I'm basically going to try to push it as hard as I can without really focusing too much on how much compression I'm getting. Let's check it out. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to push this input all the way up. Ooh, that's a little loud. Let's push the output down a little bit. Very nice. Now let's adjust the time constant. And I like it on 3 for some reason on bass. And as you could see, we basically didn't move the threshold because I'm pushing it as hard as I go. So the threshold, I'm just going to leave it wherever it is. But be my guest and move it, tweak it, and do whatever works best for you because the bass that you might be using might be very different than the one I am using. Which brings me to this next thing. This is an optional step and you might want to do it or not, but I'm going to show you how to do it. Pre-equalization. Sometimes you might be dealing with like a very specialized bass. I'm talking about like all those like Ibanez and like ESPs, Schecters, all those like with Bartolini pickups and all like this million controllers. And that might give you different challenges. So what I would usually suggest is that you slap an EQ before compression so that we're not affecting that compression too much. We just get exactly what we want. Let me show you what I would do. I would grab in my EQ section, I would choose the EQ81 and put it right before everything else. And I would do these few things. The first one would be just do a low cut on 27 Hz. Most times you're not really going to need those frequencies on any kind of bass. And some basses like really have like a lot of information down there. So you might want to tweak that just so that you're not affecting compression too much. But even then, like it's a good practice just to cut stuff like that's way too low that you're not even listening to any notes over there. But let's not get too geeky. What's the next thing I will do? I would try to compensate whatever I lost in that low end by giving it a little bit of a boost. So I'm going to go to my low frequencies right here on 56 and I'm just going to give it a tiny little bump like boop, 0.5. Again, I'm not reinventing the wheel over here. I'm just trying to give it back a little bit of what I lost when I did that little cut. And I want you to pay attention to that because everything that you do is going to affect the next component over. So I want to make sure that we have like as an unadulterated signal as we can. Okay, now talking about unadulterated, sometimes you have to deal with kind of basses that are more like in a budget spectrum. And you should not discard them. Sometimes they're really good, especially if they feel good and you can play better with them. Always use it. But through experience, I found that usually what doesn't sound good in a cheap pickup, it's the mid-range. So what I like to do is I go right here on the mid-range, usually around maybe 600 or 500, and I'm going to use a high Q and just dip that. Let's hear how that sounds. In the case of my bass, that is an exquisite sound. It's basically what makes a P bass and not a jazz bass. But in your case, you might be using something that maybe you're not particularly proud of and that is just what you could afford. Sometimes the mid-range is not that good. Take it off, it's gonna sound better. I mean, you might be even tempted to take it off the P bass if you don't really want it to sound like a P bass. Not me though. In my head, bass is a P bass. What's a bass for you? Let me know in the comments. Right, that will be it. And then the next thing that I would do just like as a flavor kind of thing, let me get that mid-range back up. I like to do a little bit of a push. 3 up and 2 down. Let's hear how that sounds. And if you're a purist of gain staging, maybe you want to do 3 down. But me, I like 3 up, 2 down. Whenever I'm using this trick, but I don't really always use it. And right now I'm going to turn it off. At least now you know. Okay, now that we have our signal and it's pre-cooked, we have nice compression. Let's hear what we have and let's try to do A-B with and without the compression. Okay, next thing that I want you to pay attention is where I am on the input section. I didn't really pay attention and I didn't mention it earlier because I've done so many videos about input section and it's like such a simple concept to me that I didn't mention it. But here, my friend, you should be around, I don't know, 50, 70%. If that's what you're seeing in your meters, this preset is gonna work perfectly for you. All right, we're going a little bit too slow. Let's cook this thing. Okay, like what I was saying, now that I have a consistent signal, I'm gonna go ahead and manipulate the amp to what I want. Okay, I'm just gonna tell you right here, right now, my settings are pretty extreme. So before I do anything, I'm gonna go turn that microphone down. Yes, this one that we turned up 6 dB in the beginning so we could hear it a little bit better. I don't need those extra 6 dBs right now because I'm gonna push that amp hard. Okay, this is one of my favorite amps because of this. Boom, volume all the way up, bass all the way up. But that might be a little bit too extreme, so let me back the volume down a little bit. I like it like around here. As you can hear, every time I get louder in the bass, the distortion gets a little bit crunchy. But when I'm not really hitting it that hard, it's just like smooth and buttery and nice. Wow, just like a guitar, right? Right at the edge of breakup. So see, bass and guitar, they're not really that different, huh? All right, but let's stop with the silly. Let's keep moving. So to me, my friend, that sounds really nice already. Let's hear it with the drums and the guitar. All right, let's hear this like little ghetto AB with and without the amp. So yeah, my friend, it really sounds nice, right? It's really nice, full, and controlled. Emphasis in controlled. But we're not done yet, my friend. A little bit more seasoning, spices, and sauce. But if you're liking what you're seeing so far, remember, like and subscribe. Help me with the algorithm. And remember, you can always help me financially as well. There's super chats and super likes and super thanks or whatever that is. Okay, so let's move on to our next step. Make it a little bit beefier. And we're going to go right here to our components. We're going to find first and foremost a little EQ. And with this EQ, what I'm going to be trying to do is like get a little bit more roundness and sort of like shift the bass a little bit lower to the sub frequencies. Because me coming mostly from like a pop environment, I noticed that in the music that I tend to produce, we have a lot of sub bass, and usually organic basses are more mid-range heavy, or used to be traditionally. But nowadays, we try to get as much beef and girth as we can. And for that, I like to use this vintage EQ1A, which is like a Pultec. We're going to put it right here in my 500 series rack. First, we're going to choose our frequency, which is already chosen for us at 30. And then we're just going to boost and attenuate pretty much like the same amount. Let's check it out. So see what I'm saying? A little bit subbier. But I love this EQ because it doesn't sound just like surgically like we're adding subs. It has a vibe, it has a tone, and it just sounds the way I wanted it to sound. Okay, my friends, so the next thing that I'm going to do is
more compression.
Like I said earlier, the key for a good bass sound is that the bass and the low end is consistent. And there's no better way to do that than with compression, at least right here in Amplitube. Let's go back again to our dynamics and let's choose this compressor. Very good, my friend, right there. So we're getting closer and closer. Next step would be master section. And usually what I'm going to try to do in this master section is, since I've been looking for girth so much, I feel like I lost a little bit of definition. So we're going to go get it back. So we're going to go right here to our EQ 81 and we're going to put it right here in our master section. And we're going to add a little bit of what we need. In my case, I'm going to choose 3.3K right here. And I'm going to start boosting. we definitely gained a lot of like that finger back. I know that at some point it might have felt like I was losing it, but again, my friend, it's train of thought. I'm trying to get something first where I know that I have the most issues, or let's not call it issues, where I know that I need to work the most, and then I do the rest. In this case, a P-Bass has so much great definition that I knew I was going to get that out by just like pushing a little bit of an EQ. But that's not it, my friend. We're still going to add
The last piece in my chain.
and yeah, it's not a big deal, but it sounds good. So let's hear it. Okay, so we're going to go right here all the way to the bottom. We're going to choose this little saturation plugin that I really like. And without moving the input or the output, just leaving it exactly where it is, we're going to choose Class A. Let's hear it. It's just such a nice little lift in the mid-range, right? Let's hear the whole thing. And now let's hear it in context. Pay attention to the level right here, and right now I have my Pro Tools set up to post fader level, so I'm actually watching what I'm hearing. So I want you to pay attention to that and listen. How different is the peak level compared to how different it sounds? At first impression, it might look like, of course, the sound with the amp and everything. Not only it sounds louder, but it looks like in the meter, it's like staying up a little bit more, right? And that's what I mean by controlling dynamics. So by controlling the dynamic range, I make the low frequencies and the low volume get closer to the high volume and the high frequencies, so I can turn the whole track up. But my friend, that's conversation for a whole different video. Let's just go get a few conclusions. Hey my friend, there you go. One quick and easy way to get a great bass on Amplitube 5. And yeah, I can just give you the download so you can just put this thing in your Amplitube. But no, my friend, I want to make sure that you know how to use your Amplitube and that you know how to get your best tone. Because all these decisions that I just made are my decisions based on my taste, my experience, my bass, my rig, my headphones, and ultimately, my song. Which is not the same thing that you are doing. So I encourage you to go check all these pieces and try to like balance where they differ, what I'm hearing, what you're hearing, and what you actually want to achieve from your tone. Giving you, my friend, the best tone ever. But before I keep talking too much, remember, if you want to watch another video and you have a little bit of time, go right here, my friend. I'll be waiting for you right there. As of now, thank you for being here again, and I'll see you soon.